Drug addiction is a challenging and harrowing experience that affects millions of lives worldwide. However, it's essential to remember that recovery is possible and that there is always hope for those grappling with addiction. My guest today, Paul Boggie, was once in that position. Addicted to heroin for 7 years, Paul was eventually given help which would change his life for the better and lead him to overcome his addiction and follow a path that nobody ever thought possible, joining one of the finest and most respected regiments in the British Army. Today we talk about what led Paul to start taking heroin, the ups and downs of life as an addict, getting clean and the power of the subconscious mind, joining the army, penning his books, and sharing his journey in prisons, schools, and even a professional football club.
Welcome to the Stand Easy podcast, sharing the stories of the men and women of the armed forces, past and present, who have achieved greatness. Your host is Crash Stevenson.
Okay, on this episode we've got Paul Boggie, who is author of Heroin to Hero and a former member of the Scots Guards. Thanks for joining me, mate. I really appreciate you taking the time out. It took us a while to get here, but we got that time carved out. Normally, the guests that I've had on, their what they've achieved, their greatness, is way after they've left the military. But your story is slightly different because you achieved your greatness, your initial greatness, before you joined the military. So if we can, let's go back to where this all started.
Yeah, no problem. And thanks for having me on, mate. I appreciate it. I feel very privileged to be able to share my story with you. So I'm Edinburgh born. You may perhaps tell by the accent. A good upbringing. Place called Craigentinney in Edinburgh. Strict parents. My mum had 4 boys. I was just a normal kid, if you like. Very early age. We were jumping around in a gang. It wasn't a serious gang, but you know, we were getting up to mischief, smashing windows, lighting fires, the usual stuff. And I go through my life and everything's fine. There's a couple of things that happen in my life that are sort of traumatizing for me. Not serious trauma, but for us, you know, 7-8-year-old kid, they would traumatize any kid, really. So bits of bullying, nothing serious again. So I go through my whole life, just getting on with it. Where I grew up, drugs were on the scene from primary school age. I can always remember the smell of cannabis, the smell of weed, knowing what it was, knowing that all the older boys are smoking that. I never done it because I was shit scared of my mum, because my mum and dad back in the 80s, they used to scalp our arses red raw if we misbehaved, right? And good on them. And so it should be, in my opinion. So I was scared to do it. Alcohol was always there. And some of the guys that were in the gang were in their early 20s. And I'm an 8-year-old boy and I'm jumping around with them. You couldn't do that nowadays because there would be all sorts of mudslung. But that's what it was like. Some of these were guys, my friends, they were in their early 20s. They could go to the off license. They could buy Mad Dog 2020 and Buckfast, Kansas Super Strong Lager, bring them back to the school and the park where we hung around. And we used to see firsthand what alcohol done to them. It was fun to watch them falling over and peeing themselves and getting up to things that they otherwise would never have done. It was good fun for us growing up. Again, I was scared. Glue, sniffing glue and buzzing gas was something that was on the scene for an early age. The same gas that my mum and dad used to fill their lighters up, my friends were sticking it in their mouth and pushing it against their teeth, and then kidding on their Bruce Lee, climbing up buildings and doing all the Bruce Lee moves and things, and they were gone. Again, as a young boy, mate, we found it hysterical. You know, we would watch these guys change in front of our eyes because of these alcohol, weed, gas and glue. and we found it amusing. I tried alcohol once. I didn't like it. I tried smoking weed. I didn't like it either. It made me feel different, and I could never understand what was going on. That feeling just didn't feel like me, and I never liked it. And then at the age of 18, heroin had came into Craigentinney, and it flooded the whole area. And we were all actually very naive. Our education as young kids at school and from parents was heroin kills. Mm-hmm. And the picture on the poster on the school wall was a picture of a belt, a needle, and a spoon with the picture heroin kills. So that was our education. So when heroin flooded into the area back when I was 18, so I'm 18 at this point, and my friends had good upbringings as well. Strict parents, there wasn't any reason to think that there was anything wrong, because all my friends are doing it. They start chasing the dragon. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what chasing the dragon was at 18. I'd never even heard the term chasing the dragon. For those that don't know, chasing the dragon is smoking heroin on tinfoil.
As opposed to injecting it?
Yeah.
Right.
So, being very naive, looking back, all my friends are doing it. There's a bit of peer pressure there. I want to fit in. I've always wanted to fit in, because if you don't fit in, you get bullied. I've seen that firsthand, what happens within the gang and stuff. When you don't run around and do the same things as everybody else, you get picked on. So they were all chasing the dragon. And I thought to myself, it can't be very dangerous, because not all my friends wouldn't be doing it. It's not like injecting it. You can't get addicted. So I refrained for a couple of weeks, I think. I used to let them smoke it in my car. Smelt disgusting, like burnt fish. Horrible. Had an argument with my mum one day about car insurance, I think it was. And I left in a fit of rage. And they were at me every day, mate, to try it. And I was like, no, it smells horrible. And then this one day I was angry. And I went down to where I knew they were chasing the dragon. And I said, right, show me what to do. They showed me what to do. I inhaled the smoke. Physically, I felt like I was going to throw up. I started sweating instantly. And I was sweating in places that I didn't know that the human body could sweat. I was covered and I was soaking. And I got out the car and I lay on the promenade at Portobello Beach in Edinburgh, lying on my back, looking at the sky, and the world sort of spinning, the world changing. Again, feeling very dizzy and very sick. And I lay there, and I now know what happened, so I can explain it to you. I didn't know at the time what had happened was the reason why I fell in love with heroin was that throughout my childhood, I didn't want to spoil it too much because it's mentioned in both my books, but I'm going to have to, I suppose. During my childhood, early on, I was shiting myself, literally, and I couldn't explain it. Many instances throughout my life where I've just full-blown shit myself, and some of those instances have been in front of friends. So you can imagine being a young boy, 7, 8-year-old, 9-year-old, and things like that happening. Of course, they're going to take the piss, because why wouldn't you? I would do the same. So that traumatized me off through my life. My first year in secondary school, I pissed myself. And I remember standing in the corridor and the piss going into my boot. I could feel my boot filling up, and I was like, it was horrific for me. And I was told I was ugly. all the way through life, from my mates and girls at school and stuff. Ugly, buck teeth, horrible spots, horrible hair, things like that. And I believed them. So I convinced myself as well that I was extremely ugly. I was never going to amount to anything. All my friends had girlfriends, and I would never get one. And that's just the way life's going to go for me. But these things had traumatized me. My first job as a baker in Crawford's down Leith, and there was a bit of bullying in there as well. And what I realised on the first time of taking heroin at 18 was I didn't give a shit about anything. All these things that are plagued my daily thought process and plagued my mind all the way through my early childhood, early adulthood, followed me all the way through life. When I took heroin, it just took it all away. And I loved that about it, the fact that I wasn't me. I could just lie there and just be in another world. And so I go back and I try heroin the following day for the second time. And it was the same again. Physically, I'm feeling sick, sweating again. But again, the same thing happens where I'm just able to, it's like a big puff of smoke, literally. I just didn't care about life, what was going on in life. My money worries, my girlfriend troubles, being ugly, being bullied, or pissing and shitting myself as a youngster, or anything that was going on in my life. It took it away. And that's why I fell in love with it, that feeling. Back then, very naive, I didn't think I was going to get addicted. I thought that by chasing the dragon, because there was no needles, that heroin would not be a problem for me. And how wrong I was, as I was soon to find out when we continued taking heroin every day and every night, and there was a drug bust in Edinburgh. All the heroin dealers go underground. We were waiting to buy the heroin, and we became sick. And
withdrawal.
Yeah, cold turkey. Because we didn't know at the time, but we are now needing heroin to feel just normal. It has become our medicine. We didn't know that. But when we managed to source the heroin, we soon realised we had become heroin addicts, because when we took the heroin, it took away all the physical pain, the stomach cramps, the migraines, the sweats, the shivering, the horrendous feeling that you get when you go cold turkey. It took all that away. And that was when I first realised, mate, that I felt like I'd signed my own death warrant, very much, because I'd been taught that heroin kills, heroin addicts die. And here I am sitting in the car, just chasing the dragon, feeling this relief and this warm feeling coming through my body, and just feeling amazing. And I'm an addict now. That's what's happened with all that time of taking it every day. I've become an addict.
Did your friends realise that they were addicts as well? They did.
Yeah. We joked about it in the car every day, every night. We joked and laughed and said, you're going to end up addicted on this stuff. And like, so you will. You can't get addicted. No, you can. You're probably addicted now. You used to mock it and joke and laugh about it. We were all very naive, and sadly, those friends are no longer with us. Some of them never seen their 30th birthday, and it's sad, and I believed back then that I was going to die, because that's what I'd been taught and that's what I believed happened. So from that moment in my life, I remember thinking, well, what the hell? What's that? Crack cocaine? I'll try that. Magic mushrooms? I'll have some of them. Tramadols, ecstasy tablets, amphetamines. What are these drugs? What do they do? It doesn't. And I would take any drug that came my way because I believed that my life was over. So all these drugs that were on the scene that I'd sort of beforehand never even contemplated ever trying, became a thing where I was just taking anything. Then as time goes on, you know, my life starts to spiral downwards. The first 2 years of my heroin addiction, I worked full time.
With no problems?
Problems, you know, but I worked with my dad in a big I'm not going to say the name, big building in Edinburgh, delivering mail. And I used to go with a big bag of heroin in my sock, and my tinfoil wrapped down my sock. And I would deliver the mail, and I'd go in the toilet and chase the dragon. Go to the upper floor, go into the toilet and chase the dragon. And I managed to hold that job down for 2 years. People were noticing. And I used to say, I've got extreme hay fever problems. That's why my eyes are so red. I've got the flu. Just to blame it on other things. And I used to get away with it, probably because my dad worked there. And then I got pulled into the office, and I could tell something was wrong. And they said, Paul, your work isn't up to par. Is everything okay? And I started crying. And I said, no, I'm a heroin addict. First time in my life I'd ever vocalised it to anyone. And I said, no, I'm a heroin addict. And they were brilliant. They just said, Paul, you're a lovely lad, but unfortunately we can't keep you on. So you're only going to have to leave. I says, I understand that. And they're like, please get help. I will. No intention of getting help at the time, but I will. So I left, went back to the street, started selling cannabis to fund my heroin addiction. I'm not, I know that wasn't right to do that, but it was the lesser of a lot of evils, because a lot of my friends were robbing and stealing.
That was one of the things that really touched me. So you said in your book that despite the fact that heroin always came first, you pretty much did everything other than rob people. And that, to me, was like, heroin is the addiction. You'll do anything to get it, but you still have that moral component of, I'm not going to thieve off of people and take something away from them and make them be worse off than they are. Was there anything specifically? Was it the way your parents brought you up, or what was in your mind that went, right, I'll do everything but rob people?
That's scumbags that do that. And that is my parents. That is my upbringing. You don't do that. You didn't rob grannies at knife point. You don't lower yourself regardless of anything. And I definitely did have a moral compass. I was far from perfect, mate. Far from perfect, but whether it was lucky or unlucky that I came across a friend that was selling cannabis, it gave me a way out that I didn't have to jump through the hoops that they were doing. Excuse me. I'm drinking Iron Brew, so I've got loads of gas. I would just never lower myself to ever doing that. I think it's horrific. And like I said, it's just scumbags do that. So I never lowered myself to that. But my life got very dark very quickly once I lost my job. I'm starting to mingle in circles with dangerous people, and I'm selling cannabis, and if you didn't pay your bill, people are coming through your door, and you're going to get in trouble. So I had the fear as well, but heroin helped to take away the fear. So I was on heroin every day. So every day I used to feel really scared. I used to have sleep with a hammer under my pillow and a hammer at the front door, because when I lived alone, I was always scared that people were going to come and rob all the drugs that they knew I had in the house. But then I took heroin and Valium, and then I didn't care. I just used to sit there wasted on the couch, like not caring. I think where things got bad was I was going to be a dad. I am a dad. And I promised my parents and my family so many times that I would stop taking heroin because it was killing me. I dropped to below 8 stone. The doctor had told me, Paul, you keep going on about heroin this and heroin that. Malnutrition will kill you long before heroin is going to kill you. You are not eating. He wanted me to write a drug diary. Not a drug diary. I did do a drug diary as well, a food diary.
Right.
Because he was weighing me every week. I want to see you every week because the weight was coming off so quick. And I took the food diary in. And he says, have you even looked at this? And I was like, I just write down when I'm eating. So I was having something like 20 cups of tea with 4 or 5 sugars. He says, why do you have so many sugars? I say, it's because it helps with the hunger pain to have the sugar in the tea. He says, you're having a packet of flaming hot Monster Munch and a heavily buttered roll a day.
And that was it.
So this is what you're putting in your body every day. No wonder the weight is falling off you the way it is. You need to eat, but I'm not hungry. You need to eat, but I'm not hungry. I was like I'm not going to force myself to eat. So I promised, I'd be promising that I would get better. I would try and get help, and times I did do it, but I only done it for my family's sake. And then I was going to be a dad. I thought, that's it now. I'm going to be a dad. I'm going to be able to stop the drugs for my daughter. Believed it. In my heart, I felt it. My daughter was born. And I couldn't stop taking heroin. I chose heroin over my daughter. And that killed me as a man. And I couldn't understand why I had the feeling in my heart. The same when I promised my parents that I would stop crying, looking at my mum, seeing my mum crying at me, begging for me to stop. I couldn't understand why I'm having this feeling in my heart of wanting to stop, but I'm not able to do it. Once cold turkey is setting in, I'm struggling and I'm failing time and time again, and I failed time and time again when my daughter was young. It was just a failure, and what that done was it caused my drug use to get more, just to get worse. I was using drugs to forget about how much a deadbeat dad I was.
To try and get the guilt away.
It took away the guilt. It did.
Yeah.
So every day I'm using drugs. Every time I'm feeling guilt and sad, and I'm crying, and I'm heavily depressed at this point. The doctors put me on antidepressants. I'm using heroin. I'm using all these drugs for the doctor. I'm a zombie. And that's when I had the suicide. The suicide episodes that happened was that I was cutting my arms at one point. Never contemplating, never taking my own life, ever. It was a cry for help. I wanted people to see that I was hurting and I needed help. And nobody noticed. My friends didn't know what to say when they seen my arms. They just looked shocked, but they never, I think they just felt awkward. And rightly so, because it was just a silly thing for me to do. And I never got help. I never really looked for help. And then I had this light bulb moment where I thought, I'm a waste of space. I'm always going to be a waste of space. Everyone in life that I love would be better off if I wasn't here, bringing all the shame and the embarrassment onto everyone. And sorry, that's Caesar in the background if you can hear him. There was a lot of shame and embarrassment, and I thought, you know, I'm that's it. I've had enough now. I'm tired of this life, and I'm just not wanting to be here. So I had a bright idea of having a blue bowl, filled it up with antidepressants, paracetamols, filled it up, hundreds of tablets, got a pint of water, and I had this great idea of taking an overdose and not waking up. And for the first time in a long time, I felt happy. I felt I'm going to be at peace, and I had this overwhelming feeling of feeling happy for the first time in years like that. And then I locked myself away, locked all the doors, pulled the blinds, put the lights out, put REM, automatic for the people in the hi-fi. It was old hi-fi that you used to have. And I put that album on, and I sat with my own thoughts. And then Everybody Hurts came on. And when Everybody Hurts started, I knew at that moment in time, that's the song. This is when it happens now. So I'm sitting crying on the rug, saying goodbye to my mum and dad, my aunties and uncles and my brothers. And as crazy as this is going to sound, Michael Stipe, the lead singer of the REM, he started singing the lyrics to Everybody Hurts. Don't throw your hand. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. I'm not singing because I can't sing, right? He started singing these lyrics, and I was right next to the speaker, and I believed that he was singing that song just to me. He knew what I was about to do, so he was singing those lyrics, telling me to hold on and not to throw my hand. And I woke up the next morning with all those tablets scattered all over the rug, and I got the biggest fright of my life. That was the moment when I realised that I need help. I need to go and look for help and seek help, because there's something extremely wrong with me if I'm contemplating doing that to my family or doing that to myself. There's something extremely wrong. So that was when my life changed. I obviously still in a dark place, still taking drugs, but I found a course, Sirenians in Edinburgh. They accepted me on the course. The 4th week of the course, there's an American psychologist guy called Lou Tice going to teach me about the power of the mind, the subconscious, the creative subconscious, and all this amazing stuff, the power of self-talk and all that jazz. And I'm like, shut up. I'm a druggie. You know, I'm always going to be a druggie. This American guy's not going to be able to teach me anything. So, how wrong I was. Sat there for a week, sitting in a classroom, mocking the guy, just mocking him, laughing and joking about him. Went back to drugs. And then 19 years ago, on the 14th of May, because I've just hit my anniversary, 19 years of heroin, that morning something was different. Under 8 stone, got up in the morning, boxer shorts hanging off me because I was like a skeleton. Walked into the living room. Something was different, mate. I didn't know what it was, but something was different. I felt something was different. Had all my tablets, my methadone, my Valium, my cannabis, all lined up on the table, and made my cup of tea as usual, put the sugar in, came through. Is he right? Is this Lou Tice character right? That the power of change comes from within me? No the government, no my parents, no my friends. I've got the power to change. Is that right? Because if that is right, and he is true, we'll find out. I went up, I put my nose on the mirror, I looked straight in my eyes. I got extremely aggressive. I says, don't fucking ask for heroin ever again, because you're never getting it. And something amazing and unbelievable happened at that exact moment, was that I knew I'll never touch heroin to the day I die. And I'm 19 years in now, And folks say you can't say that, Paul, because you never know what. I can say it, and I will say it. I'll never touch heroin again. And that's where my recovery story started. From that moment, I sat, finished my cup of tea, looked at all the drugs and methadone that would make me feel better. Cold turkey was about to come. I'd had heroin the night before, but cold turkey was in the pipeline, and I started dreaming. I just thought, this physical shit that I'm going to go through for weeks, fuck it, I'm doing it. I've got the choice. I've got the power. I understand with the mind how I can make things happen and make things change, and I'm going to fucking do it. I didn't care who doubts me or who laughs. And I started eating. I got the colour back in my cheeks. I always remember my mum saying, like, she could see the colour coming back in my cheeks. What happened was that there was a void that was there with the drugs, the heroin. I had to fill that void. I didn't know back then, but when I was angry or sad or anxious, heroin was my best friend. Heroin would take away those emotions. I needed to find something to help. So my little brother gave me an old MP3 player with 9 songs on it, and all I had on was 9 Akon songs. And I had running trainers. So whatever time of night, 3 o'clock in the morning, it didn't matter. When I overcame my emotion and I felt really bad, I used to go walking, and I loved it, the fresh air, and it would help me sleep in at night. I've noticed when I was going back, I was actually able to sleep, and then I started jogging. And then a few months in, after the shin splints and stuff, I started Forrest Gumping it around Edinburgh. Honestly, mate, I literally ran along Princess Street, round Arthur Seat, along the beach, on the sand. I ran everywhere with my 9 songs of Akon, and I loved it. Whenever I had these horrible emotions, the anger and the sadness, the shame, the embarrassment, and things that plagued my life, music on, running trainers on, and I used to pound the pavement. And, you know, very quickly, I started to change physically and mentally, started to grow and get stronger. I got a job again, driving a forklift. Everybody's noticing the huge improvement in my moods and the way that I look, the way I'm coming across, and everything's amazing.
Did you feel more confident in yourself?
Yeah,
you did.
But the thing was, when I started the running, physically, I was changing. But then I took up boxing for a little while. Not like boxing in the ring. I hate getting punched. Could never understand it, right? But the training. So I used to go to boxing training and hit a heavy bag every day. And it used to make me feel alive. It used to make me feel amazing. Like, to de-stress me, just pounding, bum, bum. And I'd done it every day. Became addicted to that as well as the running. And then because I was in the gym, I heard the clatter of the metal, the people doing the weights and the benching. And so, I'm going to try that. So I started lifting weights. Then I became very vain. The gym was littered with mirrors as it is, and I was in the studio, and you know, I would have a vest on and have my shorts and stuff on, and I'd catch a glimpse of myself in the mirror after doing like the weights and all puffed up and the protein shakes and stuff. Look at the size of you. No way. Like, and my shoulders and that were ripped, and I was like, it made me go even further in, stepping it up with my training. I just loved the way that I was changing. I became a bit cocky and confident. This newfound confidence, you know, and I'm in my mid-20s, late 20s. And then my life's starting to change. Everything's amazing. Something was just missing. I was on a lunch break after driving a forklift. I got on my lunch break, flicking through the paper. Top left-hand corner, top right. Army, be the best. Seen it. Well, the cut-off age, I believe, used to be 27.
Right.
I'm 29. So my time to ever join the army has been and gone. Oh, well. So that was it. That was my thought. I'm too old. It's fine. I'll find something else, maybe a fireman or policeman. I wanted to do something in my life, and I felt that overwhelming feeling. I'm going to do something. Yeah, so I seen the advert in the newspaper about army be the best, and thinking that I'm too old. Walking along Edinburgh, the West End, army recruitment office. I'm 29, almost 30. To this day, I never know. I don't know why I walked in. Excuse me, I'm drinking Iron Brew again, sorry. I walked in and sat down. Seen a pipe major, the Scots Guards, sitting at the desk, and he shouted on me. I went in. How old are you? And I said 29. It wasn't 29, sir, back then, because I wasn't obviously just 29. He says, are you fit? I said, yeah. I says, I run every day, I'm boxing, I lift weights. He says, good for you. Keep up the good work. I'll get you Scots Guards. Handed me a whole load of leaflets. I went, all right. Didn't know who the Scots Guards were, right? I had no idea, right? So I had an appointment with the regiment of Scotland up the stairs right after the meeting. It was very brief. He says, see, before you go home, come back in and see me. I went, okay. So it was a sergeant major up the stairs I went up to see. Had a conversation again, and he gave me a whole load of leaflets for the regiment of Scotland, right? So I went back down, and I pulled my feet in. He said, you wanted to see me before I go home? He said, yeah, what have you got in your hand? And I said, oh, that's just some leaflets for up the stair for the regiment. Let me see. He threw them over the room into the bin. Right? Just launched them right into the bin. He said, I told you earlier, I'll get you Scots Guards. And I was like, okay. So I was that excited. I think I actually ran home that day. I never even waited on the bus. I was that excited. So I ran home, got the laptop, typed in Scots Guards, loaded it up, watched a wee video. Toy soldiers. That's who they are. Toy soldiers. Huh. Let's do it. So I'm watching the video, and then the video cuts for the ceremonial duties, and it cuts to Afghanistan, and you hear the rounds coming over, and I'm like, oh shit. I says, they're not just toy soldiers, like these guys are real soldiers. So I done a wee bit of reading up, see the front line, and I was like, do you know what? Let's fucking do it. Let's do it. I can people are going to laugh, and people are going to, and people did laugh. My mum and dad, my brothers. I'm going to be a soldier. Aye, sure you are, Paul. Sure you are. You're nearly 30, son. Right? And I was like, no, they've changed the age. The age is 32. Blah blah blah. Right? So I says, well, aye. They never thought I'd do it. Nobody did. But I was so mentally strong back then in my own mind that I knew I can achieve anything in life if I put the work in. So I go to Glencorse for 2 days, do the things there, and then the wee guy comes in with the white coat and the clipboard. Strip down to your boxer shorts, start leaping around like a frog for me. So I'm in my boxers leaping around, and he's like, right, checking the ankles or something, right? So by this point, I'm ripped, physically. So it sits me up on the bench, on the bed. He says, have you ever had problems with drugs or alcohol? And I was like, fuck. My heart sank, absolutely sank. I'm not going to lie, because if I lie, I'm going to have to fucking chase that lie for my whole life. And I'll get caught at the end of it. So, kind of lie, I fucked it. Oh, well, good while it lasted. He said, yeah, I was a heroin addict for 7 years. He says, oh, okay. What's the dates? So I gave him the dates. he says, just wait there. He left me on that bed for about 15 minutes. It felt like an hour, eh? But sitting there in my boxers, my heart sank. He came back in after 15 minutes or so and said, right, I've spoke to my superiors. You've been clean long enough. You're in very good physical shape. Enjoy basic training. So again, I was that excited. When I got excited, I always wanted to run. I remember just wanting to run. So I was like, no fucking way. I've been accepted. I'm going to Cataract for 7 months to train to be a fucking guardsman. Like, wow. Like, is this happening? Like, so the date comes, January the 10th, 2010. Jumping on a train at the Waverley, waving goodbye to my mum and dad. They're like, we'll see you in 2 weeks, Paul. Right?
No faith.
Right? I'm sure. Like, if you ask my mum and dad, they would say exactly that. See you in 2 weeks. So I'm on the train, go down to Cataract, get off the coach. They pick us up at Darlington and the coaches take us in, put us in 3 ranks, learn what that is for the first time. So we're standing in 3 ranks and then they go around everyone. And then the sergeants, who are in their mid-20s, I'm 30. Fuck's sake, how old are you? As soon as I opened my mouth and said, 30 sergeant, he went, you're the fucking smackhead for the East Coast.
So he'd already had some warning that you were coming down.
I said, yes, sergeant. He says, oh, trainee guardsman, you want to be a guardsman? Yeah, we'll see. And I said, yes, sergeant. And then he heard all the joking and the laughing. There must be 50 guys lined up. All the joking and sniggering. You could hear them all whispering and all that. And then, so word to travel down. And then the following day, you go out for your 1.5 miles, best effort, the fitness. Now, a few months prior to going down there, I stepped up my training because I thought there was going to be 18-year-old whippersnappers that were going to run rings around me. And I didn't want that. I had a fear. So I stepped up my training on the sand with my boots and just was always on the sand, uphill. And then go out for the 1.5 miles, 50 guys going running round. And I came in 3rd.
Nice.
Right? Now, as you'll know, when you come in, you get a time. And you line up in the time, in the order that you come in. And it's the first time you meet in the sergeant major and the officers and that come out for the first time. And they speak to the first 2 guys and I'm standing there, blowing out my hoop a wee bit, but I'm not spewing and on my knees like some of the guys doing there. I'm like, this is all right. So come along. This is trainee guardsman Boggie, sir, from Edinburgh. Oh, are you the one that ran into some difficulty in your younger years? Can the way your officers do word it, right? And I went, yes, sir. He went, So there was sniggering for doing the line. And the sergeant major heard that and he says, shut the fuck up, you lot. What the fuck are you laughing at? And then, because it was to do with the drugs. And then he just says, well, look where he's standing. And he's fucking 30. Some of you are fucking 18, 19-year-old fucking spewing on the ground and stuff. Are we doing at the end there? So shut the fuck up. And then for that day, I had a bit of respect, like with everyone, the corporals, sergeants, and the officers and stuff. And a lot of them are intrigued about my life and stuff. But I'd made it. Started all the thing. I struggled with drill a little bit because I wasn't picking it up as quickly as everybody else. My rifle drill's one of the greatest. I wasn't the best soldier in the world, far from it. But I had a tank, I had this stamina. And then when I used to go tabbing, always at the front. And then when physical came up, always at the front. I used to find it easy compared to the other guys. And that was what saved me in basic training, I believe. Because I struggled in other things, I believe that because I was physically fit, they believed they could teach me how to do drill properly. And they could teach me how to do my rifle drills properly. And I wanted to. I wanted to learn. I was just a wee bit slower than some of the guys, most of them actually. I was just slower, but I was picking it up and I was getting there. 7 months later, pass out parade, and my family and all that are down, and I'm marching around Catterick with my red tunic on, and Sergeant Major comes out to address everyone and says, "Your sons have done an amazing thing. They're now guardsmen. They're now going to go down ceremonial duties down in London, and then they're going to be sent overseas to most likely Afghanistan to fight." And that was like, I remember I was kind of, what the fuck? I've actually done it. Like, all through training, I thought something's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Something's going to happen. I never thought about Afghanistan or going there.
You just wanted to get the end of training in one piece, didn't you?
Yeah. And then it was like, they're going to send me to London. I've never been to London. This is what, to stand outside Buckingham Palace? Fuck off. Like, it's happening. So we've got a couple of weeks off. And then, right enough, I'm on the train going down London. Start my ceremonial duties and stuff. By that point, I was better at drill, thankfully. Still not the greatest, but I was better. And then I started doing all these ceremonial duties. Windsor Castle, fucking bearskin, rifle. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, 5 years ago, I was a smackhead, struggling with life. And I can, you know, and it was surreal because you have a couple of hours to stand and contemplate life and stuff. And I was just like, this is fucking insane. Like, to be here doing this. So I was down there, I think it was about 6 or 7 months, down there a long time. I loved it. Then I got sent back to Catterick to start pre-deployment training for my first tour. And that was a crazy time. I had a good few weeks where I was absolutely shitting myself. And my friends noticed, they picked up on it, that I wasn't having a joke and a laugh anymore. I was becoming quite serious and quite grumpy. And they came up to visit and they said, "What's wrong with you?" I says, "I didn't care about yous." I says, "But I'm fucking shitting myself about going over there. Like, I'm terrified." And they're like, "Boggie, man, shut the fuck up, man. When I get shot, you're going to be the one that's picking me up and carrying me." And it was this, started just like joking and laughing about things that we're going to get up to, and they brought me around, thankfully. And then I started to get excited, and I was like, I've put the training in, I've put the hard work in, I know what I'm doing, right? I've got amazing people around me that'll be looking after me, and I want to look after them, so let's fucking do it. So I started to get excited. And then travelling back to Catterick from Edinburgh one weekend, my army friend was driving, I'm in the passenger seat, and my Fijian friend sitting directly behind me, 70 miles an hour, hit black ice. The car goes into a skid. There's a big, huge boulder at the side of the road. The car hits the boulder on my side, and I break my back. The car leaves the road and goes down a big grass verge into a field. And the spinal specialist later told me after what happened was the impact on the boulder and the car broke my back. It was weakened so much, obviously, with the brake. But because my Fijian friend never had his seatbelt on in the back behind me, when the car was travelling at speed coming off the road and going down the verge, all the weight of him going into the back of my chair pushed my chair right forward and crushed my spine. So I'm sitting in a car, fucked, smashed my face and all that, and everyone was dazed. The driver got out, and I remember he was trying to do something on his phone. He was just walking about dazed, and I thought it was a two-seater car, so I had to get out to let numbnuts, we'll call them, behind me for no wearing a seatbelt. That's what I call, right? So I thought I need to let him out, because I watch a lot of American movie films, and the engine bay was smoking really badly, and I thought this car's going to fucking blow up, so I better get out. It's probably just steam for the radiator, but anyway, back then I thought I need to get out of this fucking car, I need to let numbnuts out. So I opened the door, I grabbed it, and then I took my belt off and stood up, and then I just collapsed in the long grass, and it was snowing. He managed to get out. He had bumped his head. Well, this car's still going to blow up. So I grabbed as many big bunches of the grass as I could, and I started pulling my body, pulling until I couldn't pull anymore. I was far enough away from the car if it exploded that I wasn't going to get burnt. And then lying in the snow, just past Otterburn, Newcastle area, lying there. Didn't know what had happened. I had to lay there for like 40 minutes. And then I got taken to Newcastle Hospital, and then they come and said, yeah, you've broke your back and you've crushed your spine, you're L1. So I was like, still got to Afghanistan though. Sergeant Major came in to see me, and that's all. He was like, how you doing? How you doing, Boggie? Granddad. They used to call me Granddad. How you doing, Granddad? I was older than him, so how you doing, Granddad? And I was like, aye, good sir. I'm still going to Afghanistan, sorry. He says, shut up. You didn't be worrying about things like that. Just get better. And I was like, aye, but I'll still be able to go with all my pals. He says, you broke your back, you fucking idiot. And I was like, aye, but I still had that. It's going to heal. So anyway, I stayed in hospital for 4 weeks. Went back to Catterick, and then I pleaded with them to send me over. The military doctors, I pleaded with them, and they were like, can you do the fitness test? And I said, yes, ma'am, I can do it. Like 15 kilograms, right, out you go. So I had the PTI took me out, and when I come back on the drill square, all the offices and that could see, and there was a few of them congregated that were looking over, and I seen them shaking their head when I came back in, because I couldn't get the day sack off with the weight on it. And as soon as I released the weight, I collapsed a little bit. The muscles in my back were just so weak, and I just collapsed, and I couldn't stand up straight, and I'm hobbling. And so that's it. I'm no fucking going. I'm never going to go.
How did you feel like after doing all that pre-deployment training? You know, some of the guys that you were through in basic with, you knew they were going. How did you feel knowing that was it? Shit bust, you're not going, but everyone that you know is.
Killed me. Similar to when I spoke about earlier, when I wasn't able to stop heroin for my daughter, that horrible sinking feeling absolutely killed me. I had to stay in Catterick, do my rehabilitation and stuff, and watch my friends go over to Afghanistan, watch my friends come back. I was actually tasked with dealing with their medals. That was my job in the stores, was taking in all the guys' medals and writing it in the book, and that fucking broke my heart. And they mentioned medical discharge, and I said, and they said, that's my choice, medical discharge, and I was like, no. And then eventually, I was a tea Jenny. I was making cups of tea for officers every fucking day. I was like, what am I doing? Everybody's getting promoted around about me. I started wallowing in self-pity. I became sad and angry. Through no fault of my own, my military career is over. And yeah, just sad. So I get put on tramadol and codeine, AR drugs. They knew about my heroin past, obviously, but you know, I was in a different place, so I get handed a prescription for these drugs. Because my drug passed, I know that when I'm angry and sad, I know that if I take enough opiate drugs, I can forget. I knew that. So I started abusing the drugs that I was getting and swallowing 8 in one go just to forget about everything that had happened. So obviously I become addicted again. and I've become in a dark place again. 2015, back to Edinburgh, crushed spine, struggling, and then my life, like, what am I going to do? Like, I tried to find things to do to occupy my mind and stuff, but I had this thing that I couldn't shake that had happened with the army. Couldn't watch any documentaries, or, you know, if there was mention of Afghanistan on EastEnders, it made me well up. So I always say to the wife, like, we can't ever watch anything like that. American stuff's fine, but anything British to do with going to Afghanistan and stuff, I can't watch it. It's too difficult. And then I'm just pottering away, just trying to get on with life, but still abusing the drugs. So I'm starting to deteriorate physically as well as mentally again. And then my wife came in and says, there's this virus kicking around. You're going to be locked up for a couple of weeks. And I said, a virus? I went, yeah, COVID. I went, all right. Oh, do you know what I might do? I might finish this book. Because all the way through sitting in the army, when I told officers and stuff, they said, you should write a book about your life. Right? So I was like, I'll write this book. The title of the book, which I get a lot of flack for the veteran community and the army community, understandable. I understand why they give me a bit of a hard time, but you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. Hopefully when you're watching this podcast, it explains it to you a little bit better. For me as a wee boy, heroes were always soldiers. That's just the way it was growing up. And when I was in basic training, telling everybody in Cataract, in the middle of nowhere, about my life, and they're all saying, write a book. So I'm going to go to Afghanistan. And when I come back, I'll pen the book and I'll title it Heroin to Hero. Oh, that's a great title, Boggie. Great title. All right. So that was it. So I started writing over in Canada, done some writing in France, done some writing. Just started writing bits and bobs, bits through my early life. So I sat up for 3 days and 3 nights at the beginning of lockdown, completed the book, and then thought about, like, what am I going to do with my life? So I was listening to Tom Walker. I didn't know who he was, but Leave a Light On came on, the song Leave a Light On. Sitting listening to that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to donate every single penny from my book to homelessness in Scotland. I'm going to give away all the money and I'm going to help as many homeless people as I can. So that was the thought, and I was like, that's like a light bulb. I was like, that's what I'm going to do. So I came to uploading the book, and then it was like, title. I'll keep the title. Don't know, good, bad. It's a good title, but like I said, I do get a lot of flack, but people didn't understand that I didn't regard myself as a hero, and I never will. It was just the title that I was planning to give the book when I was in the army, because I thought I was going to have a long army career. So I thought, you know what, I'll give away all the money to the homeless people, and hopefully, and I feel like I can justify keeping the title Heroin to Hero, and that's where I'll start this new chapter in my life, by helping people. So I uploaded it, Heroin to Hero, then went on social media to promote it and stuff, and an amazing thing happened. Was when I was writing in the book, telling people how I stopped taking heroin, it would have been 16 years ago, 17, probably 16 years ago or something, telling people in the book how I done that, Power of the Mind, Lou Tice, how he taught me about the mind. I remember sitting on the chair with the book and writing it. What the fuck am I doing? You're sitting wallowing in self-pity here. You're swallowing 20, 30 tablets a day, wasting away, blah, 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 because all these spinal specialists and military and civilian doctors have told you to accept being on medication for your whole life. You've took it as gospel, and that's what you've done. And look at the state of you. So let's try something. Didn't do it like the heroin, like straight away. Slowly taper off and see how you go. So I think it was about a month, mate, for writing the book and uploading it and publishing it. A month, I just came off all the drugs, all the cannabis, stopped everything. And I'm now about 3 years, 3 months drug-free. I didn't take anything. Didn't even take ibuprofen from my back. So,
again, what about the pain? Surely you're still in pain.
Pain every day. The pain's there for life. There's nothing that I can do about it. But what I realised was, back then, I was in a lot of pain when I was on all the medications. I was still in a lot of pain. And what I realised when I went through the cold turkey, coming off slowly, it wasn't harsh, coming off all the tablets, I realised that my back was still sore. But I'm not taking any tablets. It's still sore, like it is right now. I'm in a lot of pain right now. But it was still sore when I was taking 20 tramadols. Still sore. What I was doing is I was using the tramadols and the codeines and the Valium and the cannabis to escape my mind, to escape reality. That's what was happening. That's what I'd been doing. And when I realised to myself, and I was honest, like, let's cut the bullshit here. You fucking got a crushed spine. And that's what you tell your mum and your dad and your wife and anybody in life that you meet when you look at your fucking face. The reason you're taking all these drugs is because you've got a crushed spine. And that's fucking bullshit. That's not the reason you're taking the drugs. You're taking the drugs because you're in a sad place and you're wallowing in self-pity and you like to escape because you like the feeling of the drugs. So don't fucking lie. So this is my self-talk. This is how I'm speaking to myself. So just fucking be honest. So I owned up to it and hold my hands up. That's what I was doing. And then I managed to get off the drugs, started to get better physically. And then mentally I started to build up again. And I've been there before, so I knew where it was, like familiar territory almost. You know, I'm realizing the strength that I've got. So I get better. I get better at speaking. I start looking better. Then I do all the podcasts, as many as I can, and then I get invited into a prison to go and do a motivational speaking in a prison, and I'm like, let's fucking do it, right? So I go out to the prison. They absolutely loved it. They invite me back. They bought the book for the library, 24 copies of my book for the library. Then another prison reached out in Scotland, right? So like, yeah, of course, I'll come in. Yeah. Then another prison, right? So I said, yeah, I'll go. So I volunteered and I jumped in the motor and I drove all over Scotland, gone to these prisons. And then I got an email for a school teacher. Paul, I seen you on Facebook. I noticed that you're going into prisons. Have you ever thought about coming into a school? All right, sign me up. Right, I'm there. Where? So I went in. The talks are obviously different that I do with inmates.
Age appropriate.
Yeah. So I went into school, and then another school reached out. And then just recently, I was in my very first football club, and then they wanted me to go back because I struck a chord with them as well. What I found was that I don't want to blow too much smoke up my own hoop, mate, but I have to do it a wee bit, right? I know it's a wee bit egotistical, but when I went into the prison, the feedback that I got for the inmates was amazing because I was brutal and honest with my words. But the prison staff approached me as well and said, Paul, I had fucking no idea what self-talk was. I had no idea about this when you talk about the mind, how much control that has over my life. I was supposed to go to the gym last night with my pal, and I ended up in the fucking pub. And thanks to listening to you for the last 2 hours, I now know the reason why I went to the pub and I never went to the gym. So thank you very much for coming in. I was like, you're welcome. And then the same with the school teachers, educating them about drugs and the dangers of drugs, what to look out for and stuff. And they're like, well, it's amazing. Just keep being you. So, and that's where I'm at. I had a show, Army at the Fringe last year. We headlined for the whole month.
Nice.
I can send you over. I'll send you over after this. I've got a digital copy. That's not great, but I think you'll enjoy it. So it's that whole self-belief that was sparked during lockdown when I was writing the first book. And then obviously I've just finished writing my second book because I want to tell the world that I'm drug-free. And I never got a chance to do that in the first one because it was just a dream.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if I was going to get drug-free, but I did. And I'm over 3 years now. So I wanted to tell the world. So I wrote a second book, more stories of my childhood, more stories in the army, my stories have been on social media, and things like that. So Final Mission, that's called. And I'm going to write a third book and a fourth book. And I'm going to make a documentary. I'm going to make a feature film. I'm going to travel the world. I'm going to take the Fringe show to New York and Adelaide. These things may never come to fruition, mate, ever. But you know what? For me, it doesn't matter. It matters that it matters for me, for my own self-belief, is that I believe in my story, that I can help addicts, that I can help people struggling the way I was and teach them the way I was taught. The course that I went on was nothing to do with drug addiction at all. It was only to do with the mind and the power of the mind and the power of self-talk and the way that when I look in the mirror, if I say back to myself, you are nothing but an ugly junkie. And I tell myself that every day. Is it any wonder that I'm going to be heavily depressed and almost suicidal? Of course it's not. But if I take ownership and leadership in my own mistakes and start when I look back at myself to be less harsh and sometimes credit myself in the mirror and start doing that, I can rebuild. And that's what I've done. I've just rebuilt myself where I'm sorry that I chose heroin over my daughter. That's something that I have to live with. But me wallowing in self-pity and feeling sorry for myself isn't going to do anything positive for my daughter. I'll make my daughter proud or I'll die trying. And I hope, we message now, I've not seen her for years, but we message at birthday and New Year's and stuff, and I can't say she's proud of me. She comes across like she's proud of me turning my life around and trying to help other people in life. And I hope she is, because that means everything to me. But there's things in life, I set my goals and my dreams into lots of people that are unrealistic, and people laugh at me because I believe that I'm going to one day go to New York in a theatre and put on Heroin to Hero the Fringe show, and it's going to be a hit. And I can see it happening. I believe that if I just keep doing what I'm doing and keep pushing, I believe that one day someone out there will pick it up and say, wow, like, that's actually fucking quite a remarkable story, and it would be really good on the big screen, certainly in the theatre. And you know, why don't we contact Paul on Instagram and message him and say, you know, let's do a Zoom meeting and I've spoke to lots of filmmakers, but like I spoke to you before, it's financials, isn't it? I need somebody with deep pockets. So if you're watching right now and you're watching this podcast and you've got deep pockets, then reach out to either of us. Sorry, mate. I'm sure I did say to you at the start, I talk for Scotland, and I'm like this with all my podcasts and anywhere I go. Apologies, you've not got a word in edgeways.
No, not at all. Not at all, mate. The only thing I do want to say is visualization is such a powerful thing that I would say never say it might not happen. If you believe it's going to happen, then that's the end goal. break that goal down into smaller steps that you can do daily, and before you know it, you'll be on Broadway.
Well, sorry, right. I'll tell you this quickly, right? Because I'm conscious of time, right? But you can edit it anyway, because you're the master podcaster, so you can edit it, right? So I wrote the book, and then somebody reached out to me on social media, Tony McGeever, who plays me in the Fringe show that I'm about to send you. Do you want to do come to a meeting in Edinburgh? I went, yeah. Have you ever heard of Trainspotting? I said, I'm a Hibs fan. I'm from Edinburgh, and I used to be on heroin. He went, right, well, I seen you on one of your Facebook posts about you wanted to maybe make a film about your life. Did you know that Trainspotting was a book, but before it was a film, it was actually a theatre show? And I said, oh, really, was it? I didn't know that. He said, how would you feel about me writing a show for Edinburgh Fringe next year? And I said, let's do it. Aye, I'm in. So we co-wrote it. He done 95% of the work, and I had my input. And then Army at the Fringe picked it up, and they said, we'll headline it for the whole month last year. And then, like what you were saying there about the visualization, about how I get there.
Yep. So
the Fringe show was a huge step in the right direction. I think a documentary would be another step. And then it's like a true life Trainspotting. You and McGregor never went outside Buckingham Palace. Come on now, I did. Right, so it's those steps in the right direction. So I do genuinely believe one day it will get picked up, and I'll look back at these podcasts that I've done where I've spoke about it only being a dream.
Yeah.
And it's going to have happened, and I'm going to look back and think, well, do you know, actually, when I'm watching myself there, you can see that how much you believe, but you're not there yet. So I'm trying my hardest. I can't do anything more than what I'm doing right now, mate, and that is reaching out to people on Instagram and Twitter. And Irvin Welsh has retweeted. He knows who I am. I'm hoping to have a cup of tea with Irvin to see if maybe he can help do something, like a new Trainspotting 3 or something, I don't know, or just help anyway. There are people out there that I genuinely believe, amazing people out there that will see the worth in sharing my story, and they will help. And I'll look back and I'll just think, what was I worried about? You shouldn't have been so worried. You knew it was going to happen, but it's that when. It's just not the right time right now, but I'll keep reaching out to people and asking the question, can you help with the book? Can you help with funding, or can you help make a document? You know, I'll just keep asking, because shy bairns get no sweets.
No sweets. Mate, we have literally 1 minute and 50 seconds before Zoom kicks us off. The last question I ask every guest when they come on, because it's so unique and everyone's answer is different, is what did it mean to you to serve in the armed forces?
It was never a dream to be a soldier through my whole life, but embarking on it, and after the life that I had and being there, it just meant that pride, achievement, that pride and achievement that I felt when I had my tunic and my bearskin on. Like, you can't buy that. I know I never went to Afghanistan, unfortunately, but you know, I'm still a proud veteran, and I always will be.
Happy days. Mate, thank you so much for coming on. I can't wait to put this up so people can see it. It's so inspirational. And we'll put links down below to Amazon for both your books, and we'll get people buying them some more.
Brilliant. Happy days. Thank you.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Thank you for listening to the Stand Easy podcast with your host, Crash Stevenson. Join in the discussion over on the Facebook page at fb.me/Stand Easy podcast.